MS-13, one of the world's deadliest gangs, wields brutal violence, controlling territories and spreading fear across borders. Despite ongoing crackdowns, their grip on drug trafficking and murder remains strong. With law enforcement in constant pursuit, the question is, can this transnational terror be stopped, or is their influence only growing? A dark legacy continues. MS-13, or Mara Salvatrucha, began in the streets of Los Angeles in the 1980s, created by Salvadoran immigrants seeking protection from other violent gangs. Over the decades, MS-13 transformed from a local street gang into a transnational criminal enterprise with thousands of members operating in the U.S., El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. Despite numerous crackdowns, MS-13's criminal operations remain sophisticated, from drug trafficking and extortion to human trafficking. The gang uses brutal violence to maintain control, and their ruthless reputation is one of the reasons they continue to be a feared criminal organization. With this legacy of violence and fear intact, the gang is adept at finding new ways to exploit vulnerable communities and recruit new members. Today, MS-13 members operate with relative autonomy, making it difficult for law enforcement to pinpoint all the activities that contribute to its continued growth. Law enforcement efforts, while successful in arresting top leaders, have failed to significantly reduce the gang's influence across Latin America and the U.S. This dark legacy has resulted in MS-13 being designated as a transnational criminal organization by the U.S. government, with extensive resources devoted to dismantling it. The Transnational Network. MS-13's rise to international prominence has been fueled by its expansive, well-coordinated transnational network. This gang operates seamlessly between borders, with its strongest bases in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. MS-13 has strengthened its ties with other organized crime syndicates, allowing it to gain a foothold in the drug trade, human smuggling, and arms trafficking. The gang's control over large swaths of territory in Central America enables it to operate like a de facto government, extorting local businesses and individuals to fund its operations. These transnational activities provide MS-13 with an almost inexhaustible source of revenue, enabling it to resist law enforcement efforts. Moreover, the gang's influence in Central America exacerbates political instability and fuels migration. Many individuals fleeing gang violence end up in the U.S., where MS-13 has extended its reach, infiltrating immigrant communities. The U.S. government continues to cooperate with Central American nations, providing training and resources to combat the gang's operations. But the transnational nature of MS-13 means that even arrests and crackdowns in one country may not severely disrupt operations across the entire network. High-profile indictments. One of the key moments in the fight against MS-13 was the unsealing of a 48-count indictment against 23 members of the gang's New York-based Fulton clique. This indictment includes charges for several violent crimes, including murder, conspiracy, and racketeering. One of the most disturbing cases detailed in the indictment is the 2018 murder of Andy Peralta, a 17-year-old victim lured to a park in Queens and savagely killed by MS-13 members. The gang members took photos of Peralta's body and used the images as trophies, displaying their MS-13 gang signs over the corpse. This indictment reflects the complexity and brutality of MS-13's operations. Each member has a role to play in executing the gang's violent agenda, whether it's participating in direct killings or supporting criminal activities like drug trafficking. The indictment also showcases the level of coordination between different MS-13 factions. Federal prosecutions like this one are part of a broader strategy to dismantle the gang, but the slow legal process and the gang's decentralized nature make it difficult to make a lasting impact. The brutal tactics of MS-13. MS-13's brutality is legendary, and this violence serves both a practical and symbolic purpose. On one hand, the gang uses extreme violence to eliminate rivals and enforce discipline within its own ranks. On the other, violence is a tool to spread fear and control communities. The most notorious example is the gang's gruesome practice of hacking victims to death with machetes, a symbol of the gang's ruthlessness. This violence continues to play a central role in MS-13's operations, with multiple murders linked to the gang occurring in the New York area. Law enforcement has found it challenging to stop the gang's violence, as MS-13 members are often willing to commit brutal crimes in broad daylight or in crowded public spaces. This willingness to act with impunity further bolsters their reputation, helping MS-13 maintain control over its territories. Targeting vulnerable communities. MS-13 thrives in vulnerable communities, particularly among marginalized immigrant populations. The gang exploits the socioeconomic struggles of young immigrants, many of whom have fled violence in Central America only to find themselves facing new dangers in U.S. cities. In areas like Long Island, MS-13 has been especially successful in recruiting Latino youths, offering them a sense of belonging and protection in exchange for their involvement in criminal activities. The recruitment of these vulnerable individuals continues unabated. Community outreach programs and law enforcement have attempted to intervene, but the gang's allure, combined with the fear of retaliation, makes it difficult for at-risk youth to escape its influence. Moreover, MS-13's cross-border recruitment networks mean that even deportation may not fully break ties with the gang, as members are often reabsorbed into the gang's operations upon returning to Central America. Law enforcement's war against MS-13. The war against MS-13 is a complex and ongoing battle that involves local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies across the U.S. The FBI's Long Island Gang Task Force, in collaboration with Homeland Security, has been instrumental in recent takedowns, including the 2024 indictments that targeted key leaders. In response to the gang's transnational reach, U.S. agencies are also working closely with Central American governments to stem the flow of drugs, arms, and gang members across borders. However, dismantling MS-13 is not a simple task. The gang's decentralized structure allows it to regenerate quickly, even when leaders are taken off the streets. In response, law enforcement agencies have focused on cutting off the gang's revenue streams, targeting drug and human trafficking operations. These efforts have led to some significant arrests, but MS-13 remains deeply embedded in certain regions, making the fight far from over. Challenges in Central America. Central America remains the epicenter of MS-13's power, with El Salvador being one of the most affected countries. The Salvadoran government continues its aggressive approach to gang violence, with mass arrests and prison crackdowns. However, these tactics have been met with mixed success. While they have incapacitated some gang members, overcrowded prisons have turned into breeding grounds for further gang coordination, making it difficult to completely dismantle MS-13's power. In addition to the internal struggles in El Salvador, the political instability in Honduras and Guatemala continues to fuel the gang's growth. Corruption within law enforcement agencies in these countries allows MS-13 to continue operating with impunity. Without addressing the socio-economic conditions that give rise to gangs, the cycle of violence is likely to continue, further threatening regional stability. Social media and digital crimes. MS-13 has increasingly turned to social media and digital platforms to enhance its criminal operations. The gang has been using platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp to recruit new members, coordinate drug trafficking, and extort businesses. Encrypted messaging apps allow members to communicate across borders without fear of interception, making it difficult for law enforcement to disrupt these networks. The gang's online presence has also been used to spread its violent image, with videos of brutal assaults and killings being circulated to intimidate rivals and communities. This digital evolution of MS-13 reflects the broader trend of organized crime groups utilizing modern technology to stay ahead of law enforcement. As agencies adapt to this new reality, the challenge of combating digital crime has added another layer of complexity to the fight against MS-13. And that's the breakdown of MS-13's enduring threat. The gang may be ruthless, but law enforcement isn't backing down. What do you think? Can this transnational crime syndicate be stopped, or will they continue to evolve and terrorize? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights on global crime and security.